why I would say this, it's not simple. For people or the companies which are very established and they have their internal accounting or taxation department, so for them, it might be simple because they have people to help them. But when you go and look at the general, picture, if you
The
go out,
SMEs.
exactly the
Yeah.
SMEs, which is a huge part of the UAE's economy, and there are thousands and hundreds of thousands of SMEs
That's
out
why I
there.
told
Exactly.
you.
So they might not be able to understand the concept of financial period, tax period, what they need to actually opt for, or what they really need to follow, and how to calculate and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Which
So
legal
even
document you
that
have to
means the
look.
registration part becomes I know that FTA has kind of focused, and they tried to keep it very simple. They
Exactly.
tried to keep it very straightforward, brief, and crisp. They didn't want to have any sort of complicated documents and all that kind of stuff. But on the other hand, these few things before even registering, they need to those needs to be answered, and the owner of the business or the person who is handling the business, he needs to be very conscious and careful when he's sort of registering this. Now, during the registration, what are the basic documents which are actually required now these days?
So first thing, that's why I mentioned the professional accountant. Why I mentioned that you have to have a professional accountant with you, either it's an outsource or in-house or whatsoever. But before jumping into that one, take a suggestion from the professional accountant, so he will put you in a right position that you have to do this thing. In regards to the documentation, it's not something which is very difficult. It's very easy. It's your legal documents of your company, like your license, your MOA, and the documents of your partners. So things like that. It's very simple. But now the tricky part where it comes, that which information you have to pick out of that documents while you are going to register with the FTA or with the relevant authority. So this is actually important.
So that means tax period is very important, right?
Exactly, tax
Now,
period is very important.
let's take some examples here so that we can actually explain to our followers and audience that what are the tax periods, because it's important when they are. So it's clear, one thing is clear, of course, that everyone or every business now should start registering. This is important.
Exactly.
Second thing is they need to select their right tax periods, of course.
So actually, tax period is, you can say, it will come by default, because you, while you are incorporating your company, you already following a financial year, and your financial year is very much
But
relevant with the
fine,
tax year.
absolutely. But the problem is most of the companies, but where we have seen people do not actually, focus on these things. They
Yes.
just focus on one thing, is getting the license, but they never actually go through and check their MOAs. They don't actually read their MOAs, and they do not actually check that what is their financial period, right?
So actually, this is an opportunities for those SMEs. Even those SMEs now, they have the opportunities to make their thing crystal clear and clean. And as well as there is a lot of small businesses which actually don't know the footfall of their businesses, like the bottom footfall is in a net profit or net loss, and they just move on with the cash flows. So this is ultimately bringing a lot of other associate benefits for those particular business persons, so they know exactly where their business is standing at that point of time.
Now, what I understood from previously, if you remember, we had few online sessions and very, like a lot of physical sessions and seminars. There is like a helping hand. FDA has always proven to be a very helping hand for the changes, especially since VAT being introduced. At that time, I still remember they did tons of or hundreds of webinars. They tried to explain a lot of things, and now recently they have started doing that again, right? So for example, if somebody wants to actually understand and they want to go through all the registration requirements, so there is a series of webinars which is conducted by FTA now, and they can opt in and they can go and learn how to register the corporate tax. Coming back to the same point where we were discussing the tax period. Now, there are multiple tax periods, of course. There could be multiple financial periods of a company. It could be from 1st January to 31st December. It could be 1st of July till end of June, or 1st of May till any. It's up to them, of course. But most of the companies here registered here in UAE, what I've seen is personally, either it could be from 1st January to December. most of them are within this, they follow this financial period. And there are some companies which they follow the 1st October to 30th of September or 1st April to end of March. The basic rule, when you remember last time when we were discussing about this thing, so the first period is going to be the one which will fall after 1st June 2023.
Exactly.
So that means if a company having a financial period starting from 1st January till 31st of December, so that means their first tax period or taxable period will be 1st January 2024 till 31st December 2024. Perfect.
Exactly.
Now, then after that, they will have 9 months,
Yeah.
which will be in 2025 till end of September 2025 to file their first return,
Yeah,
right?
file the first tax return.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So that means if we take another example where a company having a tax period starting from 1st July 2023, so that means their first period will be starting from 1st July 2023
yeah.
till end of June
End of June.
2024.
Exactly.
Then later in the
Again,
following
they have the
9
9
months,
Exactly.
they have to file
Exactly.
in the following 9 months, they have to file their first tax return. So what do you think now when we are sitting in May and we are left with like 3-4 days from this big change, of course? Should people now start to register right away?
First of all, the way you explain the tax periods and the financial period, it's very much pretty straightforward with the example. So it's a quite informative. The other important thing, yes. The answer is yes. Ultimately, you have to register. So if you want to be compliant with the tax authorities, and if you want to be update, and if you want to be abreast of the changes, you get the information, you are having the relevant things, you are getting what's going on, and you have the relevant information even from the FTS thing. So you are registered there, you are in their portal. So so be a good and a responsible corporation, a responsible company, a responsible business person. I think it's good to get registered right now. And what's the point to wait for the waiting, I believe?
Absolutely. But there is another misconception. For those companies which are already registered for VAT, they have a TRN, right?
Exactly.
We call it tax registration number.
Exactly.
So when they're going to register for corporate tax, are they going to have a separate number for corporate tax?
So we have to understand in a little bit other way. Look, what is the baseline of the registration with the VAT? If so, there is a possibility if you cross the limit of 375,000 dirhams in revenue, then you will have to register. This is mandatory.
Then it
limit.
becomes mandatory, of course.
So now it's mandatory. You have to register. If you are below than this limit, okay, you may not.
So
if you cross
that's 385,000.
Sorry, 385,000.
385,000 for VAT.
For VAT.
For VAT.
So,
or either, on the other hand, 185,000.
So if you are voluntarily, so look, if you are not crossing the limit of 189,000, even for under volunteer, you cannot register. So you are not, but in corporate taxes, a different thing. Every company have to register.
So exactly. So
in
that means
case,
you're saying that if somebody is not registered for VAT for now, because they have not crossed that threshold.
Exactly.
But still they have to register for corporate tax, right?
So definitely in that particular scenario, there's no point that the same tax number will be for the VAT and for the corporate tax.
So two separate tax registration numbers.
Exactly.
That means one will be TRN, tax registration number.
Exactly.
The other one will be CRN, corporate tax registration number or something,
yeah, exactly.
Right? Perfect. So that means those companies which are not even registered for VAT, just because of their type of revenue, maybe they are just doing out of scope transactions.
Yeah.
Their businesses are not, or their revenues are not taxable. Their services are not taxable, or their supplies are not taxable.
Yeah.
Still, they need to
cross the
exactly,
limit even.
Or maybe they have not even crossed their limits yet. So they still have to register for corporate tax, and they will get a separate tax registration.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the portal will be to register for corporate tax will be Emirates.
Yeah.
It the same Emirates. Yeah.
Yes.
I think I have the list in front of me where it's better that we explain this list, that what are the basic details which will be required to register for corporate tax or what are the things which on the portal they will find and they have to prepare beforehand before going for the registration.
Exactly.
So of course they need a trade license.
Yes.
They need the passport copies of all the partners and shareholders. Of course, they need the Emirates IDs of the shareholders. They need the memorandum of association, which we normally call MOA. They need any power of attorney which has been given by the shareholders, maybe to manage the company if there is anything. Concerned person's contact details. They need to put a mobile number. They need to put email address, so that they can be, they can communicate. And I think it's very important to understand people. What we have seen from the VAT perspective, if you remember, people used to give one single email ID for like so many different accounts in some cases, right? Or maybe they are not.
Not allowed.
That's not allowed, right?
No.
So basically, one person has to know when he's registering for corporate tax. He
Even
needs
for
to
VAT.
even for VAT.
Yeah.
So he needs to actually use a very like close contact details.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the ones which he personally use.
Yes.
But what I've seen previously was that they do not have the direct access to those email addresses.
those email addresses.
They
Exactly.
do not have the direct access to the contact details, and they fall in a position where they have to like go back to the authorities asking for requesting for changing the email addresses.
Exactly.
Maybe they might have not actually bothered about it initially.
Exactly. So this is exactly, you're right. This is a suggestion for all the business persons that you have to give your own mobile number and your own
email address.
active email address,
Correct.
which should be active.
Correct.
Both of should be active, and it's better if it's on your name. It's the best thing. It should be on your name. So in that case, you at least you will get first hand all the information from the
Correct.
FTA.
And also, even if they are taking any help from people like us, for example, still they need to use their own email addresses. It's very important.
Yes, definitely.
It's very
definitely.
important because when it goes back to their position where people do not have the access, so they are in a position where they can't actually understand what is happening in their account.
Exactly.
So this is very important. Second, of course, they need to put the contact details of the company, their company address, PO box number, and all that. And of course, that last thing is more important. They have to select for the corporate tax period, of course.
Yes.
And there they have to know that what is their financial period,
Exactly.
whether it is Jan to December, 1st July to end of June, or maybe March, April, whatever it is. So they need to opt for that.
So there's another point, like for the partnership, like all the partners have to give the details, but that is for those partners who are having partner shareholding more than 25%.
More than 25%. That means if he is a UBO,
Yes.
then because that is the definition, right?
That's the definition.
Ultimate
of the UBO.
beneficiary owner.
Owner's definition.
That is
yeah.
the one who has or owns
more than
25% of the shareholding
of the company.
He's the one who can actually,
Yes.
or the details of that person needs to be shared, right?
Exactly.
Perfect.
So one important thing, look, we are trying to help SMEs on the maximum level because we know the large corporations, the large company, they have their professional with them, and they have the resources to pay those professionals, the chartered accountants, ACCAs, CPAs, or whatsoever. But with the small companies, we know very well that they don't have too many resources and get the expert opinion. So this is one of the reason to passing this information to those business persons who don't have that much big setups, but they want to know what the exactly mechanism of the corporate tax. So this is one of the reason why we are explaining this much with so much small nitty-gritties that the SMEs get benefit out of that, the small and medium enterprises.